Well, hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder on Saturday, November 4th, 2023. Who's in command here? That's the question. When our Human Resource Command is not Human Resource Services. Come to find out, they're not necessarily the same thing. And one of the questions that may be asked is, well, then do you need a congressional inquiry? And while I can't say that you do, having one could help. So something to keep in mind. And so that's the basis of what we're going to talk about today. And I am Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Retluski, U.S. Army veteran. Never been discharged. Still, I'm going to keep that rank, brother, till I get a discharge order. And that ain't going to happen. Also known as Rob Ryder, ROBBRYDER. Email is courtofrecord@AOL.com. Always the best way to contact me if you want me to try to answer something. And I have to admit, I haven't been very good about it recently because just too much going on this time of year. And my videos are on YouTube at Rob Ryder with 3 B's, ROBBBRYDER. And yeah, so here my last video. I had shown that this idea of enlisted ascension in the military human resource record that every branch has for every enlistee. And that one of the things that happens in your time in the military is that you ascend to active duty. Well, that's what's supposed to happen. And so, if somebody missed a check in the proper box at the very beginning, then everything that happened afterwards, even though it may be correct, isn't going to be seen because the first thing in the logic string is wrong. So you got to go all the way back to the beginning to fix the things that were wrong in the beginning to clear up the shit that happened later. That's just the way logic works. And so we're going to get into this a little bit. But what I wanted to say was there were a couple of comments on my last video. And one was, I think the internet's dicking you around, my friend. It shows only 84 views within an hour, but 175 likes. Mine was 175th. Well, ain't that something? I mean, I know that they play with my numbers somehow, but I don't really know exactly what it is. So if you happen to notice something, put a comment in the, I'd say put a comment in the comment section, but they even mess with that stuff. I mean, if I try to answer somebody's comment, both the comment and the question disappear. So I can't answer anything in the comment section. And then the other one was Rob Ryder. Do you have a video going over the DD-214 in more detail in regards to one not being discharged? I'm going to talk about the DD-214 some more in this video. But, the easiest thing is AR 635-8, Army Regulation. Now, it could be different depending on your branch, obviously. Right, that says the DD Form 214 is not intended to have any legal effect on termination of the soldier service. Well then, what does discharge mean? So this is the thing, right? Were you actually discharged from the service, or were you discharged from active duty, or does it just look like you were because they gave you these pieces of paper and they tell you that you are, but when you start looking at the paper, you say, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. How do I get this stuff fixed? Right back to the beginning. Well, that'd all go through human resources, either the command or the service. And so what the difference is Human Resource Command is actually a command in the Army, and it's the overarching umbrella over everything, where Human Resource Services are things that are done for the command at the battalion or brigade level. In the Army, it's called S1. Right, which is administration. Right, so yeah, we got to go look at what the, all them admin people do, because they're the ones in charge of this. But as I'm going to show you, I mean, according to what I'm reading, well, they're the ones that can fix it. So I've been going to Human Resources Command. I've been going to the top, where actually maybe what I should have been doing is going to the bottom. And this was kind of pointed out to me when I... Earlier this week, I had a conversation with the people from Accession's management branch, where they had an email address here, so I emailed them, sent them some questions, got an answer. Didn't really like the answer, so I said, well, how about this instead? And I got a phone call. And I'm sure the guy thought we were kind of done there, but I said, well, let me think about it some more. And I sent him another email, and that got another answer and another phone call. And one of the things that came out of the phone calls was that if I was to supply him with the congressional inquiry, then he could probably go to NARA, the National Archives, to get all my records. Because part of this whole problem is that we're not seeing all of our records. When you go to NARA to get your records, they give you your, supposed to be your official military personnel file. But it's not your MHRR, or in the Army's case, the AMHRR, which has your official military personnel file in it, and a whole bunch of other things, like all sorts of paperwork that have to do with finance and pay and things like that. And they're supposed to have one for everybody, and can't get it. So he was saying, well, if I had this inquiry from the Congress, then maybe I could go get it. Now, he had said that because he had seen that I had already done an inquiry. And, because obviously he can see things in his computer that I don't know where he's getting his information, but he knew that I had written to the president and that I had written to my congressman and so forth. And so what the congressman gave me, right, was... Right, in further response to your concerns regarding your military order, I'm enclosing a copy of your military service records to include DD Form 214s and discharge documents. The Department of the Army maintains that in order to address your situation, you must file requests for review with the Army Review Board agency for completing the attached DD Form 149. So that would be the normal thing they want you to do, is go to the Army Review Board, fill this form out, let them deal with it. That's one way you could do it. But in the records that he sent me, it just proves again, well, there's no discharge order for me from my second tour. Right? I served 3 years, got out for a year, went back in. So, I had one tour for 3 years, and then I went back in as prior service. So I have these, like 2 sets of records, which is really handy in this case to bounce off of each of them to see what they say. And this is some of the stuff I'm going to show you today. And, if you're not into looking at forms and procedures and, looking for the needle in the haystack, then, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because that's what we're going to be doing. But the devil's in the details, and that's the only way you're going to find them, is you got to get down the details and find out what the hell is going on. So my point is, I have this now. I got my records. I found out what I did. So I should be able to write back to this guy and say, well, look, I got the records. Thank you very much. There's no discharge order in it. And then try to lead him in the direction I want him to go with his inquiry. Instead of just having this broad inquiry where I don't have the orders. I mean, can I narrow it down for him? And that's what, some of the things I found this week that I think that we could. And it wouldn't just have to be for me. Anybody could do this, right? If you have the same issue, you're enlisted, I'm telling you, you're still in the military. You don't have a discharge order. If you have a discharge order, well, then send it to me. Let me look at it, and I'll see if there's some errors in it. Because I shouldn't say, I do have a discharge order from the first time I went in and got out. But I don't have one for the second time. And the one I had for the first time says things in it that shows that I wasn't discharged from the Army. I was just discharged from active duty, or separated from active duty. Maybe discharged is the right term. Because they use separation and discharge. Which one means what when? Right? It's this freaking word magic they like to use. Anyways, we got lots to look at, and we're going to get started here in just a second. But that's where we're at today. Who's in command? Because the people that we probably need to be dealing with are at the Human Resource Services level, which is really not the Human Resource Command at all. It's the S1 of your unit that you would have been attached to. Or an S1 of some unit that you could be attached to. Who knows? So I'm going to find out this week. I'm just catching everybody up on where I am today. So give me a second. We'll get started. Okay, just really quickly then, what's a brigade? What's a battalion? What does that mean? I wasn't in the Army. Da 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 da. Well, here's a breakdown, right? So a team in the Army is 4 soldiers, and a squad is 10 soldiers, and a platoon is 36 soldiers, right? Commanded by maybe a second lieutenant, silver bar. And then a company is maybe 200 soldiers, and that's a captain. And you get to a battalion, right, which is 4 to 6 companies or 1,000 soldiers, and that's commanded by a lieutenant colonel. We go to brigade, which is a full bird colonel, right? And it's like 5,000 soldiers. Well, brigades and battalions are the ones that have an S1. They got S1, S2, S3, S4, and S1 is the administrative section. So at these levels is where you have human resource services, not human resource command. But this is the units that if you were in the military, you'd be attached to one way or another. And so one of these units to be attached to is, like in my case, I'm going to show you, I got an order that says that I was reassigned to the transfer center or transfer point. Okay, well, that's the last place it saw me, so that's the place I should be assigned to. And so I should be able to go to that chain of command somehow, to the S1 over that chain of command, and say, hey, what happened? You guys are supposed to have 100% personal accountability, which is another thing, right? That's an Army regulation. At all times, 100% personnel accountability. Where am I? They should be able to tell me. All right, hang on again. Okie dokie, so let's start with, this is the DD Form 4. All right, so if you were to get your records, either by asking your congressman to get them for you, or going and filling out the form, standard Form 180, and asking for them that way, eventually you'll get them. When I did it that way, it took like a year and a half. It was during COVID, and they gave all sorts of excuses. But when I did it with the congressman, it maybe had taken less than 60 days, right? Because if they get a congressional inquiry, they have to get on it right away. So, so this is the contract that you sign, right? And my contract says that the person being contracted with is Retluski Robert Allen, no comma, right? Not Robert Allen Retluski, Robert Allen. Okay, well, if that's what they want, then let's just go with that for a minute. But then I find out, well, when I did my oath, I did it as Robert Allen Retluski. And I signed as Robert Allen Retluski. And I did it again when I went to the regular component of the United States or the Armed Forces. I did it as Robert Allen Retluski. First, I did it as delayed entry. Then I had to come back when you're getting ready to leave and do it again. And, nothing changed. I'm still in. So Robert Allen, or according to this, Retluski Robert Allen, has a contract with the Armed Forces of the United States, and in that contract, one of the things it says is that as long as I'm enlisted, I'm entitled to receive pay, allowances, and other benefits as provided by law and regulation. It also says that your enlistment can be extended, and it quotes some laws, and one of them is 10 U.S.C. 506, 10 United States Code 506, Title 10. And you go and read that, and it says that during a time of war, if you enlist into one or one starts while you're enlisted, that your enlistment can be extended until 6 months after the war. And so I enlisted during the Cold War. And the Cold War went from 1946 to 1991. And both the Korean War and the Vietnam were proxy wars of the Cold War. So, that's all part of the Cold War. And it went to like December of 1991. Well, before it ended, they started this other war that they called the Persian Gulf War. And so, technically I was still in because I enlisted during a war. And before I got out and that war ended, another war started. So now I'm carried over in that one. And according to Title 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations, the Persian Gulf War is still ongoing. Right? So that's why, if you enlisted, you're still in. But the DD Form 4 isn't the only document you did at the beginning. You also did this one called the DD Form 1966. And as I showed in my last video, according to the Department of Defense, your DD Form 4 and DD Form 1966 are your ascension documents. That if you have those, you're supposed to have ascended into the military. Now, it doesn't mean they forgot to check a box and they didn't do it, even though you have the evidence, right? This is the thing, you got to get the box checked. Who do you go to? Well, what I wanted to show you on this, that if you have one of these, there'll be a spot somewhere where it's going to say here, applicant has been interviewed and is eligible for enlistment or not. And it's blank. So nobody decided if I was eligible for enlistment, and so that would be, could be considered a bar to enlistment, and therefore they didn't ascend you into the military. Now this isn't a mistake, because on my first one, it's the same way. Right? This is my second, can't really say tour, it's my second enlistment. That box wasn't done. Go down here far enough, and now we got Rytlewski with a comma, signing as Robert Allen Rytlewski. This whole section here was supposed to have been filled up by a recruiter. He just put DD 214. Well, that's not my name. Data verification by recruiter. Continuing down. Statement of name for official military records. The whole thing is blank, right? That never happened. We never decided what the name was going to be, right? If the preferred enlistment name is not the same as on your birth certificate, and it has not been changed by legal procedure prescribed by state law, complete the following. But we didn't. Right? Now, I'm supposed to have filled it out so you could say that's my mistake. Well, that's fine. I did it while I was in the military. I mean, it was in their control, so they made it the Army's mistake. I'm a member of the Army. I made a mistake. The Army made a mistake. Let's go ahead and fix the freaking mistake. Okay, whereas this is the DD Form 1966, right? DD Form 1966 from my first tour, because these forms were different. One was 6 pages long, the other one was 8. Right, but even on my original one, go down here, and here it is, right? Applicant has been interviewed and is eligible for enlistment or ineligible. Well, no one made a decision. So, that could cause an error that would file you the rest of your career. And in this case, I was Rytlewski, Robert Allen. Right, but never was I Rytlewski Robert A. Right, never an initial. That name didn't come up as a choice on the DD Form 4 or the DD Form 1966. And yet, I'm going to show you all the orders I got, or almost all the orders I ever got in the military, were for Rytlewski, Robert A. Well, that dude never served. He didn't sign no contract. All right, and finally, a quick look at the DD Form 214. Again, I have 2 of them. I served 3 years, got out, stayed out more than a year, came back, had to do the whole thing again. So handy for me. I have an extra set to look at. So this is my first time around. And it has down here that an individual not available for signature. Well, some other one says. How come I was never available for signature? What's that all about? And it says I have separated per Chapter 2 of Army Regulations 635-200 with a separation code of LBK, a re-enlistment code of RE1, completion of required service is the narrative that's supposed to go with LBK. And as we'll see, we're going to go look at a regulation that says, well, no deviation is allowed. So whatever the book says the narrative is what should be here. And guess what? They're not right. And as it turns out, Chapter 2 of AR 635-200 has absolutely nothing to do with a reason for you being separated. So let's just look at that real quick. Right? So this is the regulation they're talking about. So if you have a DD 214 and it says, AR 635-200, well, hey, you can look it up. And it said Chapter 2, so let's just quickly see what these chapters are about. And you'll see that, right, Chapter 1 is general provisions. Chapter 2 is the procedure for separation. Chapter 3 are the different characters of service, description of separation. And then Chapter 4 and on are separation for. These are the different reasons that you'd be separated for. So Chapter 2 isn't a reason to be separated for, so they never gave a reason why I was being separated. So, Chapter 2, AR 635-200 doesn't give them a reason to do it. It just says this is the procedure on how to do it, not the reason to do it. And then we got this separation code LBK, which that's in this regulation. AR 635-5-1, separation program designators. That'd be the SPD code that's on your documents. Which again says, we scroll down here, let's see what LBK is. Those are for officers. I got involuntary. There's JBK, KBK, LBK, involuntary refrat or transfer. Refrat, what is that? Reduction of forces? Right, completion of required active service. Should be, per AR 635-200 Chapter 4. Well, that isn't the one they said. And it has this note attached to it, Note 7. And Note 7 says that if you have this thing, then unless you have one of the DCSS in force, then you're ineligible for, barred from, or otherwise denied re-enlistment that are separated on completion of enlistment. Which would mean if they're saying that I was, barred from re-enlistment, then I wouldn't be able to retire, because to retire you have to be on active duty. So, it's like, well, if this isn't right, I want it changed. And so it says LBK, completion of required active service. What did this thing say? Where are we at now? Completion of required service. Okay, so, it's close. But close don't cut it. It says completion of required active service. Completion of required active service. Is that right? Let's see. Completion of required service. There's no active in there. It's not right. And I didn't sign it. So I can't contest I didn't do it right because I never got a chance to sign that damn thing. And you could read in AR 635-200 that if you didn't sign yours, then eventually they're supposed to send you one. But that by you not signing it, it's a indication that you were either AWOL or missing or some other reason, because there's no reason for you not to sign your damn paperwork. Unless you went on leave. But there's no place on here that says I took terminal leave. All right, so that was that one. And it isn't all that much different than my second one. Which, same thing. I didn't sign it. It's got JBK. Now it does say Chapter 4. That's the proper chapter. But it's using the wrong expiration term of service on here again. And I just want to find this part on here that talks about it being. Yeah, right here. Rules for SPD code control and usage. The narrative reason for separation will be entered in Block 28 of the DD Form 214, exactly as listed in Table 2.2 or 2.3 of this regulation. No deviation is authorized. Well, that's pretty fucking simple, right? Didn't do it right. It's wrong. We got to get it fixed. Why wasn't it done right? And, that would mean they're going to have to pull out your records, and, well, that's where you're going to find the other stuff that's wrong, and end up saying, well, apparently I'm still in the military. And another thing on the second one of mine, right, this is my second tour, second enlistment, is that it has that the name is Rutluski, Robert Allen. Well, that's not the name on my DD Form 4. It was Rutluski, Robert Allen without a comma. And people say, well, that's no big deal, but it is. If you're doing data searches in a computer system, whatever you put in and what you're searching for is what you're going to find. And so if you don't put the comma in, then the ones with a comma aren't going to show up. And if you do put the comma in, then the ones without the comma aren't going to show up. And if you put in Rutluski, Robert Allen, then Rutluski, Robert A isn't going to show up. And that's what we're going to look at next. So these are my, my ascension documents, a DD Form 4, DD Form 1966. Right, the 1966 got the blocks on it where they're supposed to say if you were qualified to be enlisted or not. They didn't do the damn thing. You're going to find the same thing on yours. It's done intentionally. It's put there, done that way for a reason. So from all that, then we'll look at some of the orders that were in the pile of papers that came from my congressional records or my congressional inquiry by my congressman. Well, it comes in a big-ass envelope in the mail, and it's, about an inch thick, and it's got all these papers in there, and they're really in there no rhyme or reason. So you got to sit and kind of put everything together in little piles, and well, this is what you find out when you start doing that. This is a travel order from 1978. And it's for Rutluski, Robert A. Right, and I have my Social Security number on it. Discharged from U.S. Army Reserve, enlistment in the U.S. Army. You are hereby assigned to inactive duty. Right, you'll proceed in your current address at a certain time, and then you'll be discharged from U.S. Reserve, and then you're supposed to be enlisted into the regular Army. And this was, what did I say? This is December 28th. Okay, well, then on January 12th, that's when all of it started to happen. That you are hereby assigned to active duty. You are transferred from this activity effective this date, and are directed to proceed to to this commander. Right, so now I became this commander's responsibility. I was leaving the command I was in, which was the Department of Defense Armed Forces Exam and Entrance Station, right? Going to a different command now, which is the commander, USA, blah, 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 Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Well, who went? Rutluski, Robert A. with Social Security number. And it is my Social Security number. I mean, I'm not disputing that. It's just, just not the same name as the name that is on the DD Form 4 with that Social Security number. Now, this is like the only order I have that's got my name, Rutluski, Robert Allen, which is the way they did my name on my DD Form 4 for my first enlistment. So I really can't complain about that. It says you are relieved from active duty, not by reason of physical disability, and assigned as indicated on date immediately following relief from active duty. Any temporary appointment held, terminated, Effective date of relief from active duty is 11 January. And I'm assigned to some control unit. It's St. Louis, Missouri, because I had served 3 years, but you have a 6-year commitment. So you go to like inactive reserves. That's what they kind of tell you. And Military Selective Service Act obligation, 6 years. Okay. I never was part of the Selective Service, so it really shouldn't have anything to do with me. Additional instructions. You are not required to report physically to your assigned control group. However, you must keep them informed by mail of your current address. Well, I know I never did that. I never contacted anybody and said, hey, this is where I'm at. But the other thing is, and I wish I had pulled it up, but I showed in the other video, there's a procedure that says that, you know, in this particular case where you serve 3 years of a 6-year commitment, for your final 3 years, you're going to be considered a reserve. And so before you leave the transition point where you're being released from, they're supposed to give you a reserve ID card, or a DD Form 2 R, I think, for reserve. I didn't get one. So, and this is format 523, right? So let's say this is right. Then I should have another one of these for the second time I got out. Or something similar, right? Some kind of order to say I'm relieved from active duty. But that isn't what happened, right? Rutluski Robert A. with the Social Security number. I went in again. This is under format 100. Rutluski Robert A. No comma this time. I went to this place. This is a format 320. That's good conduct medal. And Secretary of the Army Special Trust and Robert A. Rutluski. Right now it's not backwards. Now it's Robert A. Rutluski. On a format 302. And Rutluski, comma, Robert A. again with Social Security number. It would be your format 410. So as it turns out, all these orders have a format number attached to them. So depending on what kind of order it is, you're supposed to use a particular format, and the format requires certain information to be in, and, you know, so that make sure it's all being done right. And what's this here? This is for promotion, I believe. Yeah. Right, format 310 for Rutluski, comma, Robert A. Social Security number. And then finally, this is the last one, right? Where Rutluski, comma, Robert A. with the Social Security number, you know, this attached to this unit. So basically, this legal fiction here, because that isn't my name, that's not the name that's on my DD Form 4, but it is my Social Security number, right? That this legal fiction was reassigned to the U.S. Army transition point shown for separation processing. After processing, you are discharged from the component shown. If you are delayed in reporting to the transition point, you still must report to the transition point as soon as possible or as authorized to receive new effective date of discharge. Assigned to, right? So this would be my last command I was assigned to. The U.S. Army transition point. Bunch of squiggly stuff there. Fort Belvoir, Virginia. So it's like for me, well, who's the S1 for them? Because they're responsible for my freaking for taking care of me now. I just went to them. Now I'm assigned to them. Date of discharge, unless changed or rescinded, 16 March 1988. Well, as it turns out, my ETS date is actually April 1st, 1988. So I don't know why I would have been there in the 16th. You're not taking terminal leave. You must have all these different cards, so forth and so on, dependence cards. And this is a format 501. So a format 501 order gets you into the transition point, and a format 523 or one similar to that gets you out of the transition point, being discharged. But I don't have one that I ever left the transportation point. All right, so this is where the congressman said, well, here's what we have for you. I can go back to him now and say, well, sir, there's not an order in there for my discharge from the transition point. You know, can you contact them and ask A, B, C, and D? And so that would be the next thing is, well, can I kind of lead them in the path I want to go on? Right, so all this is in your stuff if you get it, right? You can get your DD Form 4, your DD Form 214, long form, your DD 1966, any orders that were issued, all that stuff is in. It's supposed to be your official military personnel file that's with the National Archives. Just really quick, here's AR 635-8, what I talked about at the beginning, right? Preparation and separation documents, that the DD Form 214 is not intended to have any legal effect on termination of soldier service. Period. Right? So they can't say because you have a DD 214 you're discharged. They're going to say it, but it has no legal effect if you can get to the right people, because this regulation says no. It has nothing to do with your termination of your soldier service. That takes an order. Right? Separation process and requirements. Separation process requirements vary by service component, active duty status, type of separation. Multiple activities conduct separation processes under the provisions of their own prescribed directives. Discussed below are administrative process requirements for whoever SFLTAP is, retirement planning, pre-separation briefing, publication of separation orders, DD 214 processing, and other separation documents. Separation processing, regular Army. Separation processing normally begins with pre-separation counseling as required under section something or other of Title 10. It's actually section 1142. For retiring soldiers, separating soldiers, attend pre-separation briefing. See Chapter 4, Section 1. I don't know if I ever did that. Where's the order? Installation level transition center produce separation orders for all regular Army soldiers in accordance with AR 635. All right, so the transition center was responsible for the separation order, and there's no order in my frickin' file. Right, go back to Fort Belvoir to the what do they call them? The transition center, and get it figured out. Somebody should. I'm just trying to lead in the right place. And we talked about the Army Military Human Resource Records, which is a big deal. Military Personnel Division. That'd be your MPD. Separation orders, installation level, out processing requirements, transition center procedures, review of DD Form 214, safeguard to finalize DD Form 214. Well, it sounds like the Military Personnel Division's got something to do with what I need to have done. It's just, where are they, right? Are they at the Human Resource Command in Fort Knox, Kentucky, or are they at S1 for some unit in Fort Belvoir, Virginia? All right, the Transition Center issues separation orders in accordance with AR 600-8-105. So this is why, forget your DD 214. It has nothing to do with if you've been discharged. If you've been discharged, where's the frickin' order? All right, the Transition Center issues separation orders in accordance with AR 608-105 for RA, regular Army soldiers who will separate from active duty no later than 60 days before the scheduled separation date. I guess that's me, right? Unless there's something hokey going on, I'd say, well, should have been me. Where's my order? And they should say, well, here it is, or there's been a mistake, or, well, actually, it would have been done this way, and you need to go here and ask them this, and blah, 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 blah. Right, so, if you have a DD214, you should really download AR 635-8 and go through it, because when you get to, 5-5, the policy concerning it, the DD Form 214 will be prepared in accordance with paragraph 5-6 below. No deviation is authorized. And then start looking for deviations. And when you find them, well, then you have something to complain about. And so one of them is, like for me, in Block 18, they're supposed to have these mandatory entries. And there's one up here for where your awards go. Because this is another thing. If you were actually separated from the military, you would have been awarded, now this is the Army, you would have been awarded a Soldier for Life lapel pin. And if you're awarded, an award, then it's supposed to be on your DD-214. Well, there's no record of me being issued a lapel pin. So apparently I wasn't being discharged from the military. What is I wanted to see? Hang on a second. Right here, when a soldier is not available, separated in absentia, enter soldier not available to sign. Well, I've already closed these out, so I can't. Oh, no, I guess I did. Right? What's it say? Soldier not available to sign. Is that what it says? Let's go take a look. Member unavailable for signature. Deviation. Right? It's not the same. What's this one say? Individual not available for signature. Well, that's not what the damn regulation said. It said soldier not available to sign. And that's not the words they use, so it's wrong. And this word talks about going to 635-1 to get the SPD code and, all that has to do with it and the narrative reason for the separation. It's all in there, right? All the stuff that was supposed to be done is in this AR 635-8. And when you compare your DD-214 to this document, you're going to find that the shit isn't the same. So there's deviations, right? Somebody didn't follow the regulation. It's not my fault. It's their fault. I'm just the one trying to point it out to somebody. So now you have to get it in the proper in basket to have somebody do something with it. Because everything is so compartmentalized that, unless it's done in a particular way, that people can't do anything. So like the guy at the transitions or the Ascension Center, it's not that he may not have agreed with the things I'm saying. It's just that, in his capacity, there's nothing he can do. But maybe he could if he had a congressional inquiry order. Right? So I'm just saying I've done a little more research. It's like, well, maybe this isn't the guy I need to talk to anyway. I said I need to be focusing at the human resource support level, not the human resource command level. So let's look at that for just a minute. So Army Regulation 600-8, Military Human Resources Management. And let's look at some of the things I found in here. This regulation establishes Army policy, managerial framework, organizations, and the delivery process of human resource support system. Okay, well, I need some support. HR support is delivered in both home station and deployed environments. The operational mission of HR support provides support and readiness services to commanders, soldiers, families, retirees, veterans, and contractors. Right? Human resource support, not human resource command. During tactical operations, HR support directs the personnel portion of the Army's wartime command and control system and collects, processes, and manages tactical HR information and executes decisions of commanders. Well, we're always at war, so, we're using this right now. HR leaders will use this regulation and Field Manual 1-0, which I think is just wonderful. The very first field manual of the Army has to do with human resources. And, I've said for years, well, we're still under the Lieber Code because the Civil War never ended. The things necessary to end the martial law that Lincoln declared were never done. And, the Lieber Code is the government of the armies in the field. Well, this would be a field manual to go with that situation. Right? That they're doing things by field manual. And so go look at the manual and say, well, this is what it says. Right now, that becomes the book that they're supposed to follow. Go find out what they're supposed to do and make sure they're doing it. Enduring Principles. The Enduring Principles guide HR leaders and support providers in assuring higher quality, more diverse and ready total Army using effective systems and agile policies. And what does... Enduring means lasting, continuing without perishing, bearing, sustaining, supporting with patience or without opposition or yielding. Lasting, long, permanent. Excellent. Responsiveness. Responsiveness is providing the right support to the right place at the right time, right? That's what we need. Get to the right end basket with the right piece of paper, and that right person can do rightly to you what you need done, because you're right. Synchronization is ensuring HR support operations are effectively aligned. Accuracy of information impacts not only decisions made by commanders, but also on soldiers and their families. Information accuracy affects soldiers' careers, retention, compensation, promotions, general well-being, period. So yeah, it got to be accurate. Information accuracy affects family members during the next of kin notification. Casualty operations, HR provides. Providers must understand the dynamic nature of HR system architecture and the fact that data input at the lowest level directly affects decisions made at the highest level. Is that like the most important thing ever said? Data input at the lowest level directly affects or impacts decisions made at the higher level. Well, that's a true statement. I got to highlight that text. Not that way. All right, core competencies. Core competencies are essential and enduring capabilities which translate into major work requirements involving one or more key human resource functions. Work requirements of a competency are derived from or executed through HR function. For example, the force competency is a consolidation of key functions of personal readiness management, personal accountability, strength reporting, retention, and personal information management. Well, this personal accountability, the military has a duty to maintain 100% accountability of everybody in the military who's ever served. 100%. Where are you today? Right? As long as you're still in the military. So if they can't produce an order that says I left the military, then I'm still in the fucking military. So human resource functions are manageable segments within the human resource support system, not human resource command. For example, strength reporting functions is common to staff elements G1 and adjutant, that'd be S1. It is generally not conducted by Military Personnel Division, the MPD. I talked about that earlier. The MPD. I have to see how they go together. Okay, function propensity system, and this is, from the top to the bottom. Starts with Human Resource Command, goes down at the bottom. We have this thing called the USA SSI. Let's see what that is. Okay, well, that takes you to the United States Army Soldier Support Institute, which, as it turns out, has something to do with the Adjutant General. And as we'll see, the Commandant of the Adjutant General School is the main squeeze for the system that we're talking about outside of the Human Resource Command. All right, so if the data input at the lowest level directly impacts the highest level, then whatever USA SSI does impacts HRC. So we got to go to USA SSI, whatever that means, figure it out eventually, and have them fix whatever needs to be fixed. So here's the competencies, right? Personal readiness. You got personal accountability, strength reporting, retention operations, and personal information management. So this is, all the details about you is through personal readiness management. Who's responsible for that? Who's we got to see? And they got certain tasks and a task mandate. Operating instructions are presented in a standard manner, normally in a table governing HR publications. Task consists of the following elements. All right, so we got to find the task that needs to be done, and it will say how it's supposed to be done and when you can present all that to somebody and say, well, this is how it's supposed to be done, sir. Like your congressional representative, then he can do an inquiry based on them facts, and now they got to answer those facts. All right, this publication used in managing HR support systems and directing work to be executed by HR soldiers are AMHRR 600-8, which we were looking at, we're looking at it right now. And then there's the series, which, they have an 8-6. That's another one that they would be using. Field Manual 1-0. So, hey, they all, those are the ones that these people deal with. HRC and USASSI share major portions of HR support systems. So HRC, which is, where are you guys at? At the top, and USASSI, right, or joined at the hip. Big brother, little brother. Share major portions of HR support system. USASSI manages HR concepts, doctrine, tactics, techniques, procedures. That's what they do. They do the procedures. So say, brother, you're not following the procedure. And HRC executes the policies and directs procedures to accomplish tasks and functions in both home station and deployed environment. The Chief Field Service Division of HRC is the program manager for HR integration and services at the HRC coordinated agent, and that serves as the HRC coordinating agent to the USASSI, while the commandant of the AG school serves as the USASSI coordinating agent to the HRC. The basic foundation documents and concepts for HR support system are listed below and must have HRC and USASSI agreement to change them. All right, so within these documents is where the relief comes from. That's why I'm looking at it. And let it be Field Manual 1-0. Then we got these directives. So human resources accomplishes non-deployed human resource functions for soldiers, family, retirees, veterans. Right, the DHR, directives of human resources. Let's look at one of those real quick. See what the heck that is. Okay, so apparently there's something at garrison level, because this is U.S. Army Garrison Daegu, where it says Directorate of Human Resources, DHR. The Human Resource Director integrates and delivers the full spectrum of human capital program management and human resource-based support services that enable readiness for globally responsive Army. So, it's their job. It's just which one of these is yours. So I could say, let me see if I got Fort Belvoir on here, because that's where my transition point was. Well, my gosh, look at that. Directed at Human Resources. Let's see what it says. The following Fort Belvoir Director of Human Resource Services has relocated. Okay, well, that's fine. This is all the stuff they do. Do the ID cards, administrative services, military personnel division. Yeah, these are, all the things that I need to have fixed at the lowest level, which is the battalion, and then it goes to brigade, then it goes up and up and up till it gets to the Human Resource Command, but we're dealing with the lowest level. And so, I could try to contact these people myself directly, which I'll probably do, but I could also get a hold of my congressman and say, look, I need you to contact these people at this place and ask them this, this, and this because of this, and explain what this is, which is the shit that was in the records that I've already talked about. Just a little bit more in this one. Human resource functional units. Human resource functional units are organized structures that provide direct or area HR support as an integrated part of sustainment or fighting function. They are supported by the sustainment community and provide tactical HR support in 3 specific areas. PA, which is personal accountability. postal operations, and casualty operations. Human Resource Sustainment Center, which is the HRSC, is employed by HR Primary Staff Section of a Theater Sustainment Command and provides theater level PA, personal accountability, casualty, and so forth. So what theater are we in? And what's the HRSC, Human Resource Sustainment Center, for that theater? Well, maybe I'll find out this week. Human Resource Operations Cell exists in an element within both Corps and Division SG1 staff. And yada yada. So home station, DHR, the MPD and the DHR provide limited HR support to units not supported by brigade or geographically separated from their headquarters. Okay, well, that's true, but it just seems to me that we're talking about this Directorate of Human Resources, which Fort Belvoir has one, so that's where I'm going to go to next. Okie dokie. So within Army Regulation 600-8, it said all the other ones that go with it are included also. So 600-8-6 would be one of those, and that's personal accounting and strength reporting. Which this is where the rubber meets the road, because we're talking about PERSTAT, right? Personnel status. And I got to open this thing. Hang on. Okay, so if you're following along and have any interest in this, you may want to download this Field Manual 101-5-2, which is the U.S. Army reports and message formats. So just like orders have a format they follow, so do Army reports and messages. And, there's all sorts of interesting ones in here, but what I'm most interested in is the PERSTAT, the Personnel Status Report, which is in here. And so it shows that use this report to report the status of unit's personnel. And so there has to be a PERSTAT report, which you're part of, that has this information on it. Right, date and time, unit, from, to, unit, authorized, assign, on hand, gains, replacements, return to duty, killed, wounded, non-battle loss, missing, deserters, AWOL, captured. So they, said I was not able to sign my DD-214. I did it in absentia. And one of the reasons for that is, well, you're AWOL, you're a deserter, or you're missing. So why did they say that? It would have to be on, whatever one it was way back in the day when they made that decision. Which one of these did they put me under? Right? Narrative, authentication. So there has to be one of these for you. A PERSTAT, Personnel Status Report. Where are they at? All right, this regulation prescribes the policies for personnel accounting and strength reporting, PSAR. Human Resource, HR Support Office, right? So again, it's not command, it's HR Support Office function and the HR Support System, not HR Command, HRC in Fort Knox, but HRSS per this regulation, which turns out to be the S1 or of the brigade or the battalion, depending on where you are with what the hell's going on. And PERSTAT categories. I think I was going to do just a search on this, just to see data actually achieved when required data and resident in the system of records is correct. Correct data is achieved when data in the system of record matches the data of the authoritative document in the Army Military Human Resource Record, the AMHRR. Well, look at that. The PERSTAT leads you to the AMHRR. They have to have the same information in them. Right? The primary authoritative document to correct soldier status is normally an order. So that's all we need. We need a one-signed order. Change our status. And the Adjutant General Directorate functions oversight and oversight for quality standards. Right? The TAG, actually the commandant of the school is the go-between. between HRC, the command, and HRSS, the support. Per stat, data must be reconciled to ensure consistency with PA enabling enabling systems and other command databases at all levels. The Army does not recognize ad hoc systems and locally created databases as authoritative services. The Electronic Military Personnel Office, or EMILPO, is the only approved system to account for all ALL, all regular Army, RA, and reserve component, RC, mobilized soldiers on active duty during a tour for 30 days or more within the Army. Well, what does EMLPO have to say about me? The one that can tell me, apparently, is the Human Resource Service, HRSS, whatever the hell that was. Right, 100% PA must be maintained in all PA enabling systems during peacetime and military operation. There is no deviation. Recruiting and accession commanders must oversee the process to ensure that on the day a soldier has made a commitment to the government, that'd be the day you signed your DD Form 4, or is separated from the government, well, that would be the order that says I was separated. The appropriate per stat is timely reflected in the system of record. Outstanding. Now, where's the per stat that showed that I went on active duty and the one that shows I was separated from active duty? Although most new soldiers' per stat information will fall into trainees, transients, holdees, students reporting categories, some may not, and all require 100% PA from point of commitment until separation by the commander to whom the soldier is aligned. And my last order shows I've been aligned with the transition center at Fort Belvoir. Right? Yours says whatever it says, but it's somewhere on there. Who's responsible for you? It's in an order. And to get those orders, you have to get your records. And the quickest way to get your records appears to be go to your congressman and tell him you believe there's an error in your records, and you need ask him to please expedite you getting a copy of all records that NARA, NARA, you have to go look up to see what that is, National Archives, something or other, has for you. Right? All records to do with your Social Security number, which isn't really the way I did it, but now looking at it, well, that's really how they tie everything together. It's not by your name. I got 4 or 5 different names going on, but it's by your Social Security number. So all records having to do with you. And that's what the guy told me this week, was if I was to get something like that from the congressman to give him the authority, he could go get the records. Right? But he needs to have the authority given to him. And all I'm saying now is, well, I don't believe that, Human Resource Command is where I need to go. I need to go lower to where the lowest level and, have the inquiry done there. Right? In this thing called EMILPO. E, lowercase e, MILPO, uppercase, is the only approved system to account for all regular Army and Reserve component mobilized soldiers on the active duty tour for 30 days more in the Army, period. Well, who's got EMILPO? I want them to look at it and see what it says about me. Standards of service. Soldier accountability is the responsibility of the commanders at all echelons during peacetime, mobilization, combat, other types of deployments. Commanders and staffs will ensure 100% PA, personal accountability of all personnel for the duration of their military service. Thank you very much. Unit commanders will account for their assigned and attached personnel by verifying their full name, Department of Defense Common Access Card with electronic data interchange, personal identifier, and or full Social Security number. All right, so SSN, Personal identifier, I'd say that's your DOD ID number, but they didn't say it, so I'm just guessing. Well, that's what they're talking about. PA, personal accountability, is the recording and visibility of by name management of location and duty status of all personnel assigned or attached to a unit. Right? By name management of the location and duty status of all personnel assigned or attached to a unit. So are you missing? Are you AWOL? Are you active duty? Ready for service? Are you discharged? Whatever it is, got to be accounted for. The personal accountability system of record for all personnel serving in regular Army and all components in wartime environment is EMILPO, and that's where we are today. It's a wartime environment. And I was never discharged because I don't have a discharge order, so I'm still in the regular Army. So I'm in EMILPO. And as I'm thinking about it right now, I asked the guy in the conversation, from Human Resource Command about EMILPO, and he deviated away from answering, and I didn't catch it in time to get him back to, hey, you didn't answer my question, which is what I should have done. What about EMILPO? Because he wanted to talk about this other thing called IPERMs, which is what we had started our conversation with. They have all these acronyms for things, right? Pretty soon, you got 5 or 6 things you're calling acronyms. So it's really hard to keep track of which one you're at. Unit of commanders will account for soldiers from their initial arrival date or specified reporting date in orders to on order date, a new gaining command, absent without leave, drop from the rolls, DFR, drop from service, DFS, date of separation, or death date. One of those fits you. Fits me. Proper accountability at all times is essential and facilitates accurate per stat reporting. Commanders at every level must maintain 100% accountability for deployed, redeployment of every DOD soldier, civilian contractor in support of the DOD Army's missions. All personnel are required to provide full Social Security number and DOD identification number, electronic data exchange, personal identifier for DTAS. Accountability. DTAS is the Army system for providing input to the Joint Personal Accountability Reconciliation Reporting JPAR system in accordance with Joint Publication 1-0, processing to Defense Manpower Data Center. Well, I don't want to have to do all that. I want somebody else to do it. I want to find my person that's going to do all that for me. And I'm just saying, well, it's a human resource service at the lower level that's going to have access to EMILPO to find out what your status is. And based on the status, if it's incorrect, have the commander correct it. Right, because here's, just real quick, and we're going to go to one last thing, but I want to look at the field manual. In here, they have all the different categories, right, that you could be on active duty. These are all active duty categories, right? Got administrative absence, absent without leave, a couple different times, captured, confined in the hands of civil authorities, convalescent leave, confined in the hands of military authorities, a couple for hospital, interned, missing in action, which is different than just missing, ordinary leave, present for duty, right? Sentenced over 30 days, but less than 6 months, civil court, sentenced by military authorities, sick, temporary duty, depart, in transit, failure to gain, excess leave. Right? One of these codes applies to you somehow on these documents, and the document they use is called a 647 or a 647-1. It's the personal register. Right? So that's like the hard copy document of what puts you into your personal status. Duty codes, anytime the duty status soldier changes to meet the definition of another duty status, an EMILPO transaction is necessary. unless exempted below. So it says. Got all these reasons for per stat, per stat, per stat, per stat. So you get the idea, right? That, this is a AR 600-8-6. Got all sorts of information to help whittle down who it is we're talking about. But at the end of the day, it seems to be that we got to deal with human resource support, which, as it turns out, is the first field manual of the Army. It has to do with human resource support. And on, let's see, what this is, page 81 of this PDF, a personnel information management is a process to accurately collect, protect, process, store, display, reconcile, validate, maintain, and disseminate information about soldiers, their families, members, DOD, blah, blah, blah. So it's a big deal. So this is, a couple hundred pages. We're not going to go through it all, but I suggest if you're interested in this stuff, you need to download it and start familiarizing yourself with it. And the things that are, seem most pertinent right off the bat are Chapter 3, which is man the force. This is about then, keeping track of you. And Chapter 4, provide human resource services, which is what we're trying to get. And so I'm just going to cruise through these real quick and see what I highlighted. All right, this chapter discusses subordinate key functions of man the force that affect personal aspects of building and maintaining combat power of an organization. Man the force ensures there is uninterrupted flow of soldiers to the battlefield and accurate accounting for all soldiers. DOD and DA civilians and CAAF properly manned units are vital to assuring the fulfillment of missions as the strategic element of national policy, enhancing predictability and ensuring commanders have the people necessary to perform assigned tasks. Man the force key functions are PRM, PASR, HR support for replacement operations, HR support for casualty operations, and supported by PIM. Whatever all those things mean. Well, they mean personal readiness management, personnel accounting and strength reporting, human resource support for replacement operations, HR support for casualty operations, and personal information management. And then it goes into what each of those is, right? It just take forever to go through this, so I can't do it. But, I'll be studying it more closely this week as I decide what exactly it is I got to do to try to get some relief. But I had this one here. Personal acts, personal accounting and strength reporting. Soldier accountability is the responsibility of commanders at all echelons during peacetime, mobilization, combat, and other deployments, types of deployments. Deployment encompasses all activities from origin of home station through destination, specifically intra-continental United States, intra-theater, and intra-theater movement, leg, staging, holding areas, various HR accountability and strength reporting resources are used for this process. Refer to AR 600-8-6, which we were just looking at, for detailed information regarding policies, standards, and requirements for PASR, which is keeping track of your ass. Personal accountability and supporting and reporting of by name data on soldiers, DOD and DA civilians as they arrive and depart units. Management of locations and duty status of every person assigned or attached to the unit. So all my orders are for Rutluski, Robert A. But Rutluski, Robert Allen is the one that actually joined the military. So they don't really have by my name, right? There's a mistake in the name. They may have the proper Social Security number, but the name is wrong. So if they're doing things by name, and they say, well, where's all the records for Rutluski, Robert Allen, then these orders wouldn't show up. Or where's the DD4 for Rutluski, Robert A., who all the orders are for? Well, they may not find it by name, but they would if they did it sort by Social Security number. The Army Personnel Accounting System, EMILPO, accounts for joint, interagency, intergovernmental, international personnel, when directed at ineligible family members during non-combat evacuation operations. So at the end of the day, it's all an email code. That's the thing that's supposed to have you. Strength reporting is a numerical end product of the personal accounting process. It's achieved by transforming by name data into numerical end product. So they're going to change you from a name to a number, right? They're going to take all your information, assign numerical numbers to it, and end up with this numerical end product. And so your name won't be in it anywhere. It'll just be a string of numbers that need to be translated back to whatever it is by name. But in the system, it's all by number. Personal accounting is one of the most important functions a battalion or brigade S1 performs on a continual basis, regardless of location or environment. So there's the key of why you need to go to the battalion or brigade S1. It's their duty. Promptly entering personal accountability change is crucial. I got to use the email PO. Deployed theater accountability system. That's what the DTAS is. I have to do some more research on that. Personal strength reporting is a command function. I don't know if you hear my dog barking or not, but I think Amazon's here. Hang on a second. Okay, so the strength reporting process provides commanders with snapshot of personal component of their unit's combat power capabilities within a deployed theater. They establish PERSTAT reporting requirements for unit strengths. When operation is a joint environment, the joint PERSTAT contains similar data to the PERSTAT. Well, okay, we got to have our PERSTAT. Personnel status. All right, the PERSTAT should not include local nationals, foreign national contractors, unless specifically designated as a CAF, or detainees. The PERSTAT or joint PERSTAT provides boots on the ground numbers and reflects all civilian contractors and so forth, all military personnel from each service assigned, attached, under operational control, present in theater of operations during the time of the report. Now, this is how she's all done. All right, looks like a battlefield. Personal accounting, strength reporting responsibilities. Okay, so who has to do what? This is, getting down to the boots on the ground stuff. And Battalion S1, the section maintains accountability for assigned or attached personnel to include replacements and RTD, return to duty soldiers, Army civilians. All right, so again, it's at the lowest level is where the error is. It needs to be corrected for the highest level to see it and then do what it needs to do. That's how she appears to me. Okay, let's just take too long to read all this. Hang on a second. Personal information management is a process to accurately collect, protect, process, store, display, reconcile, validate, maintain, disseminate information about soldiers, their family members, DOD, DA, civilians, military retirees, and other personnel as required. The Army Military Human Resource Record, that'd be the AMHRR, where the rest of them are every other branch has a military human resource record. It just isn't necessarily going to start with an A. I showed that in my last video, like Coast Guard starts with the CS, MHRR. It's an administrative record as well as official permanent record of military service belonging to a soldier, right? This is what's so important about this record. Not just the official military personnel file that's within the MHRR, but the MHRR itself. Properly managed PIM satisfies the Army's legal obligation to retain historical information about veterans, retirees, and DOD, DA civilians who deploy with the force. Right? And PIM is the personal information management, which is what the PERSTAT is, right? That's the document they're going to create that says where you're at. The creation of the Army, the AMHRR, begins with the first commitment to the government by the individual and the commitment by the individual to the government during the acquire process and updated during completion of HR life cycle in accordance with 608-104, right? Another regulation they're supposed to follow that says how they're supposed to do this. But again, it's all being done at the lower level, at the battalion or the brigade, apparently, using human resource services, not human resource command. Commanders, the commander must ensure protection of documents, data pertaining to enlistment, appointment, duty stations, assignments, training, qualifications, performance, awards, medals, disciplinary actions, insurance, all that stuff. Who's responsible? The commander is, not the soldier, the commander. HRR system support, human resource system support, right? This are essentially accomplishing Army-wide PIM, executing during LASCO, LSCO. Human resource professionals rely heavily on HR system and databases to provide commanders accurate report and information on mission accomplishment. The inability to collect, process, and disseminate relevant HR information about units and personnel in a timely manner can seriously impede operations, yada, yada, yada. So HR professionals must establish measures to ensure information continues to flow, which may include manually completing forms and using radio to submit casualty reports, stats, personnel status, or other information relevant to commanders to maintain sustainment, COP. Not sure what that is. And hey, this video is getting to be an hour and a half, so I'm going to cut her off, right? But Chapter 4 is about provide human resource services. And so this is where the rubber meets the road, and what I'll be working on this week to send to whomever needs to see it to try to get something done, whether I do it directly myself or go back to my congressman. So my thought is, okay, I have this letter from the congressman, so now I'll write him back and send that, to show we've had this conversation, and then show this is what I need to get done based on what I found on my records, and can you please contact A, B, and C and ask them to do something for me, and see how it turns out. Because, they have to, the thing about congressional inquiries, and it's covered in this manual here we're looking at, they have a certain period of time they have to deal with it. So it gets bumped to the top. Human resource services are functions directly affecting soldier status, assignment, qualification, financial status, career progression, morale and cohesion, and quality of life, in addition to providing recreational, social, other support services for soldiers, DOD and DA civilians, and other personnel who deploy with the force. It's important. It's an important topic for you as an individual serving in the military. Right? Essential personnel service functions are initiated by a soldier. I'm glad I kept reading for a minute. So, how do you do this then? Well, you fill out one of these, right? Using a DA Form 4187 personal action. Which is, that's how they did it back in the day. If you wanted to get something done, you'd go to S1 and you would fill out a DA form, Department of the Army Form 4187, personal action, with what it is you wanted done. But by the same token, if there's something that needs to be done for you, then your commander can fill out a DA Form 4187 on your behalf, specifying what needs to be done. And so now at these different levels, like transfers and discharges, well, all these commands have something to do with it, but it starts at the very beginning, right? At the battalion level. Same with pay and entitlements, right? That's at the very lowest level. So going up here to ICOM, whoever them are, to talk about military pay, well, they got nothing to do with it, right? Got to have the box checked. Personal action requests, well, they can be done at all levels. Issue identification cards, well, that's at the brigade level, not the battalion level. reassignments, deletions, deferments, records review, congressional inquiries, check, 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 check. Reclassifications, well, that's what I need done. I need to be reclassified. Right? There's an error in my classification right now, and I'm not appearing. Application for retirement. Well, that's part of what I want to do. I want to retire. But to retire, you got to be on active duty. And I've never been released from active duty, so I am on active duty. We just need to get that cleared up first, that I've returned to military control on active duty, and that I can retire. And suspension of favorable actions. So there may already be something in my record to be done, but it's been suspended because something is in the record causing the suspension. Like finance says I didn't pay for my canteen that I lost back in 1985. So they put a block on, and well, that'll stop everything. It doesn't matter what it's for. All you gotta do is check the box, and the block is there. To provide effective and prompt HR services, it's critical that actions affecting soldiers be processed or routed promptly by the chain of command and HR professionals. So get her into the bottom and let the chain of command deal with it. HR customer service is a critical service performed by all S1 sections as it affects the soldier's status, readiness, career, management, benefits, and quality of life. The S1 section is responsible office for ensuring that assigned and attached personnel receive assistance with EPS actions and answering their questions and concerns. So I'm just saying, well, your S1 then is the last place you got an order for. I got an order showing that I was going into the transition center, but I don't have an order showing that I was separated. So who's the S1 for that transition center? It's their responsibility. All right, then we got awards and decorations. And again, if you were to be separated, according to the awards manual, in the Army, you would get a Soldier for Life lapel pin. In the Navy, you get a U.S. Navy pin. Right? I mean, they exist. Well, if you're going to get an award or a decoration, it has to be on your DD-214. So if it's not on your DD-214, then you were not being separated from the frickin' military. Forget that it says you're discharged. If you're saying I'm discharged, there's an error because there's no lapel pin. We need to go get this figured out back at S1 battalion or brigade level. Transfer discharge program provides a mechanism for orderly administrative separation, transfer, discharge of soldiers for various reasons in AR 635-200. Okay, well, did they do it right or not? And my case is saying you didn't do it right. Didn't happen. Military pay, other HR support, in addition to the EPS functions discussed in the preceding paragraphs, S1 has the following responsibilities for personal action, request, and other HR-related support. Provide the unit regulatory guidance support as required for personal action requests and other HR actions. Process personal action requests in a timely manner. Process includes reviewing applications, verifying, if necessary, eligibility and completeness of the action. Approval or disapproval of the request, forwarding the action without comment to the HRC, right now the Human Resource Command, or returning the action for further information or action. The S1 section must ensure personnel action requests are processed daily and forwards documentation for the soldier's AMHRR as required by DA PAM 608-104. Yada, yada, yada. Right, you put one in, they got to do something with it. And let me look at that form real quick. It's a DA form 14. Yeah, looks like this. Personal action form, right? Through, to, from. Well, to the battalion S1 and from me. Right, what you want to have done, and you put your remarks in here. Forget the stuff that's in here. This is just an example for the reserves to use for something. right? But you would put the information you want in here and send it to whoever it goes to and see what they do with it. All right, so that's the idea. Send it to S1. Ask them to, look you up on Email Pro and see what your status is and, correct it if it's wrong. Something like that. Right, the S1 has the following responsibilities: process personal action requests in a timely manner. So give them one and see what they do with it. Suspension of favorable personal actions and bars to continued service. Suspension of favorable personal actions prevent or preclude execution of favorable actions to a soldier who may or may not be in an unfavorable status, to include, or who may not be in an unfavorable status, not in good standing, to include movement of a soldier when it is in the best interest of the Army or the soldier to remain in their current unit at the current location. So the Army could have decided, well, we're not going to let you be discharged. We're going to keep you in the military. And that's a personal action that's in my AMHRR that they're not letting me look at because they make everything so damn difficult to do. But the ones that know are the, battalion and brigade S1 offices, right, for administration. Congressional inquiries are specific requests made by members of Congress. Normally, commanders are required to respond to a congressional inquiry within a designated time and format. While congressional inquiries are not always HR specific, the commander designates the G1, S1 to process these actions. And so that's what the guy was saying. Look, if you can get me a congressional inquiry, maybe I can go do something. Because he could see that I had put one in to get my records. He's saying if he could get me one of those, then maybe I can do something for you. But I'm saying, well, now since I have one, I'm just going to see if I can continue on with the one I have and say, well, look, I got this. It doesn't have an order in it. Here's what the field manual says. Can you contact these people and find out what is in Email Po and get me a copy of my AMHRR? Something like that. Okay, hey, very good. Sorry it took so long. If you're still watching, I'm really surprised. It's been 90 minutes of me yakking continuously. So I hope you found it useful, and we'll see where it leads next week. Until then, I'll have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. Or I'll talk to you again soon. Did I want to do one last thing? It's always one more thing. Yeah, who's in command here? Right, so if you have anything to add, right, send it to quarterrecord@aol.com. Especially if you find out that I've been dicking with my numbers. If you notice something, put a comment in the comment section, and maybe send me an email because I don't know if everything in the comment section ever makes it there. Because there's spies all over the place, and now with the artificial intelligence taking over, depending on who's in charge, it can either work for you or against you. Very good. Y'all have a great day now. We'll see you.